Well, back to my usual commentary on here. My channel is back up, and this is what it's all about. So I'm going to be discussing important issues. That we've been all distracted by all these suspensions and so on, and maybe that was the purpose of those suspensions, is that our views don't get out there. So the issue of torture, of course. So there are two different schools of thoughts on this in terms of how to proceed. One faction says, well, if we're going to prosecute all these people, and this is basically coming from the Obama camp at this point, then it's going to cause such a huge political division in this country that basically we can't proceed with anything else. The GOP and so on will simply not allow it. It's going to involve a huge fight, and nothing else beyond that point, once those hearings actually start, is going to happen in this country in regards to the economy and all other issues. So that's one side of that perspective. Now, I have to admit, it is very much going to involve a huge fight. I have no doubt about it. But coming, from that sort of perspective is, again, thinking, just 3 or 4 years ahead, not any long-term thinking whatsoever. So let me read a few articles or posts tonight, which I have researched and that I want to share with you. And this might very well turn out to be, a 2 or 3 part video. I don't know how long it's going to go on. I have a watch here, but I don't clock my videos. So the first thing I want to read is an article entitled "Cheney versus Obama." President Barack Obama is leaving the door open to possible prosecution of Bush administration officials who devised harsh terrorism-era interrogation techniques. He also said today, and this article was published today, that he worried about the impact of high-intensity hearings on how detainees were treated under the former president. But Obama did say, nevertheless, that he could support congressional investigation if it were conducted in a bipartisan way. Well, there's probably very little chance of that happening. Obama has said that he does not support charging CIA agents and interrogators who took part in these torture things, acting on advice from superiors, and that such practices were legal, meaning that the CIA personnel believed they were legal. Well, some other stuff has come out since then that actually the CIA was pushing for even more harsh techniques. So that's just as an aside here. And basically, he also said that it is up to the Attorney General now, Holder, whether to prosecute Bush administration lawyers who wrote the memos approving these tactics. However, Emmanuel, Obama's chief of staff, had said this weekend that the Obama administration would not seek prosecution of the Bush administration's lawyers. He made this very, very clear. Yesterday, Obama went to Virginia to talk to CIA headquarters and talk to all these people there. And he defended his decision to basically release these memos that have come out, and to bolster the morale of the CIA employees. I acted primarily because of the exceptional circumstances that surrounded these memos, particularly the fact that so much of the information is already public. He also said a court case was going to force these memos to be released, and that much of what they contained had already been compromised through leaks through the news media. The president urged hundreds of CIA employees who gathered in a secure auditorium to ignore the recent controversy. Don't be discouraged by what has happened in the last few weeks. So, what is this? On the one hand, Obama says he's going to uphold the law. On the other hand, this is more or less damage control. That's what it is. So if these memos hadn't have leaked to anyone else outside the inner circles, then everything would be fine, wouldn't it? So there's no principle involved here. Basically, what it amounts to is you have to come up front with it, and because it's all eventually gonna come out anyhow, and so that's what we have to do. Now, Cheney went on, I guess this weekend, on an interview on Fox News Channel, of course, and said on Monday that what hasn't been revealed publicly is what the U.S. gained as a result of these activities. These activities meaning torture. And, Dick Cheney, maybe you should all reveal it. Perhaps the confidence in government would be restored beyond any reason of a doubt after all the stuff gets publicly released in hearings. Several other interesting articles connected with this. There was a post on Daily Coast earlier today, written by a lawyer, and the lawyer's screen name is Magorn. And here it goes. In an interview with the Washington Post this weekend, Rahm Emanuel indicated that the administration opposes prosecuting DOJ authors, in other words, Department of Justice lawyers, of what we now call collectively torture memos. The Obama administration opposes any effort to prosecute those in the Justice Department who drafted legal memos authorizing harsh interrogations by the CIA in their prisons. And White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel said yesterday it's not the time to use our energy and our time in looking back out of a sense of anger and retribution. Speaking, and this is this poster speaking here, not me, speaking as an Obama supporter since 2003 and a lawyer, I say he could not be more wrong. The lawyers who authorized these memos must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The lawyers who authorized this should be disbarred at the very least. And I say this not out of anger or thirst for retribution, as Emanuel would have it, but because to have an assurance that this kind of stuff will never happen again. And just saying, this is me talking again here, and just by Obama coming up and saying, well, we're not going to do this, all these techniques have been stopped. That is not, this is just talk. It means nothing in a legal sense as long as these legal opinions are being upheld. And in these memos, these lawyers were asked basically to create binding legal opinions advising the military and the CIA about the state of law on the subject of what could and could not be done to people that were captured and interrogated. And in essence, what they were asked was to define what was and what was not torture under numerous U.S. laws, treaties, and regulation prohibiting the practice when it's all been laid out before. There is no need for a redefinition. However, rather than try to offer a good faith legal advice on the state of law, these memos were nothing more than an attempt to create a legal fig leaf to cover blatantly illegal activity. And this is, I can see this is going to be a two-parter, so I'll be back.